His Spirit. I yearn for the Spirit of Yah. All I need, the Spirit of Yah. All I breathe, the Spirit of Yah. Can't you see the Spirit of Yah? Wanna be in the Spirit of Yah. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for His Spirit. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for the Spirit of Yah. All I need, the Spirit of Yah. All I breathe, the Spirit of Yah. Can't you see the Spirit of Yah? Wanna be in the Spirit of Yah. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for His Spirit. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for the Spirit of Yah. All I need, the Spirit of Yah. All I breathe, the Spirit of Yah. Can't you see the Spirit of Yah? Wanna be in the Spirit of Yah. Put and Benyeh and Da'ath and night. Counsel to fear Yah and adore His light. These are the spirits we need in our life to walk uprightly, be pleasing His sight. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for His Spirit. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for the Spirit of Yah. All I need, the Spirit of Yah. All I breathe, the Spirit of Yah. Can't you see the Spirit of Yah? Wanna be in the Spirit of Yah. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for His Spirit. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for the Spirit of Yah. All I need, the Spirit of Yah. All I breathe, the Spirit of Yah. Can't you see the Spirit of Yah? Wanna be in the Spirit of Yah.
Hallelujah. 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 Praise the mighty Yah.
Yeah.
Yah is righteous, Yah is holy, and let Yahweh be magnified. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Praise the mighty Yah, and welcome to another beautiful broadcast of Nothing But the Truth. From the House of Israel of Cincinnati, located at 2330 Kemper Lane. I am Mowreh IshYAH Yisrael of the House of Israel, Cincinnati. And we'd like to say shalom to everyone that is tuned in. We know that you have tuned in, and the only reason you have tuned in is because of your great fear and your great love for the mighty Yah. And who is this Yah? Yahweh is the creator of the heaven, earth, and sea. Yahweh is the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Yahweh is the only judge, the only lawgiver, the only king, and the only savior of Israel in the world. And Yahweh is the one that has raised us up to bring you his words of truth. And that's what we will do. And praise the mighty Yah. Another great, beautiful blessing to be able to present to you the words of Yah. To be able to show you his truth. For there is no Elohim beside Yahweh. And today, we will bring you Yahweh's word according to our deliverance, dealing with the deliverance of a nation from the midst of another nation. And we are a nation scattered throughout the four corners of the world, scattered in many nations. But Yahweh said that this is only for a certain amount of time. We know that you've been taught many different lies, many different fairy tales, many different stories, and many different religions have had hold on you. Many different ideologies have had control on you. But Yahweh is now exposing the world for what and who they truly are. We come to you today in the name of Yahweh, the name of the Almighty, the name of the God, as you know, of the entire world, the Elohim of the heaven and the earth, to bring you his word, because he wants you to understand what he has done, what he is doing, and what he will do. And he has brought forth his servants to bring you this message of deliverance. The world today is actually and utterly in chaos, confusion, dismay, and complete unrest. As we've been bringing his word to you over the last week, we've been teaching you about the woman in travail, explaining to you about the current state of affairs in the United States and the world, and how it pertains to your people. Before the year that we are currently in came in, Yahweh allowed us to bring to you a message to show you how Yahweh would deliver a nation from the midst of another nation. This message came forth before we knew that this pestilence would go forth and ravage the world. Before we knew that the world would be in upheaval about the slaughtering of another black man by another white police officer. We told you and we presented to you the word of Yah and why in this fourth year Yahweh would exercise war. We brought this to you. And we brought this to you from the word of Yahweh, from the book of Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. And we'll go there. And today, many cities, as reported in the news, every single state, all 50 states, and 50 represents liberty. Every single state is protesting for Black lives to matter. Protesting because the world, this country, is tired of seeing your life taken. They're tired. You would think that all of these cities would be filled with black people on the streets protesting. But no, it's filled with European Americans, Asians, Hispanics, and blacks. More other nations than your own people are on these streets. They are tired of the atrocities. And do you think the government is allowing people to support you in peace like they allowed people to protest about the government shutdowns? People protested with guns and capitals, and no tear gas was thrown. No rubber bullets were shot. No cars ran into crowds. Nobody died. But since the world has been looking at the protest in support of black people, a child has died. A young black man was shot by police yesterday in Louisville, Kentucky. Police have died. And this is not the end. And in the book of Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, the 32nd verse reads, "For ask now of the days that are past, which were before you, since the day that Elohim created man upon the earth, and ask from the one side of the heaven unto the other, whether there hath been any such thing as this great thing is, or hath been heard like it." Now, he's talking about when he delivered us from Egypt. Has you heard this? But have you heard this? Have you heard of the leader of the so-called free world stand before the country and tell them that he gonna send all available enforcement forces, military, National Guard, police, Secret Service against its own citizens if they do not clear these streets? Well, no, you've never seen this, not in this country. But Yahweh, he is pushing the buttons of these people. Have you heard anything like it? Did ever a people hear the voice of Elohim speaking out of the midst of the fire, as thou hast heard and lived? No, nobody has ever seen such a thing up until that time or since that time. Yahweh spoke to one select nation, and that's your ancestors. That's your nation. Or verse 34, hath Elohim attempted to go and take him a nation? You see, meaning has Yahweh ever went and took a nation from the midst of another nation like he is doing today, like he did in Egypt? And how did he do this? And how will he do this? How is he doing this? By temptations, by signs, by wonders, and by war, and by a mighty hand, and by a stretched out arm, and by great terrors. Has any nation ever been delivered from another nation by these 7 devices of deliverance? And no. And we told you this would happen. And we brought this to you in the last days of our 40-day and 40-night fast. We brought to you that this Elohim named Yahweh would begin to deliver his people by temptations, by signs, by wonders, by war, by stretched out arm, by mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and by great terrors, according to all that Yahweh your Elohim did for you in Egypt before your eyes. And let me show you one thing. In the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, verse 68 reads, and Yahweh shall bring you into Egypt again with ships. Ask yourself, brothers and sisters. Ask yourself, those who fear Yahweh. How did his people get to America? How did his people come to the United States? How did we get to the land of the 13 colonies? We got here by ships. How did the Hebrews get to ancient Egypt? Not by ships, but through walking. But we came here by ships. He said, I will send you, Yahweh shall bring you into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spoke unto you. You shall see it no more again, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen, as we were sold. For bondmen, slaves, chattel, bondmen, and bondwomen. And no man shall what? Buy you. What does that mean? There will be no man, there will be no Frederick Douglass. There will be no Harriet Tubman. There will be no Martin Luther King Jr. There will be no Malcolm X. There will be no Farrakhan. There will be no man that can redeem you. No man will be able to come and buy you or redeem you from this situation. Only Yahweh will. Yahweh said he's delivering a nation from the midst of another nation by temptations. The first thing he mentioned was temptations. And what is temptations? We told you this is what he would do first. And shortly after Yahweh allowed us to end our 40-day and 40-night fast, shortly after, and really, yes, right after, we were made aware worldwide that there is a pestilence spreading about the entire world and no one will be safe. And did the leaders of your country that you call your country, did they prepare? Did they properly prepare the hospitals and the cities? Well, no. Your main top leader ignored it, said it would go away, said it wouldn't be a thing, had no humility, no respect, and it came. This pestilence came from all the corners of the world, and it inflicted and infected, and it is still infecting millions of people about the world. 1.8 million people recorded in this country alone. Over 105,000 dead in this country alone. In only the past 3 months. And this, brothers and sisters, are temptations. And why would this be a temptation? Well, look what the world had to do just to stay this plague a little bit, just so it wouldn't ravage everyone. Look what the world had to do. They had no choice. The world went into quarantine. And what is a quarantine? A quarantine comes from a Latin word that means 40 days. Why would the world decide to quarantine itself? Didn't we fast for 40 days and 40 nights? Because we presented to you all that Yahweh has a controversy with the world and with Israel. And did not this pestilence impact the world and Yisrael? Is not the children of Yahweh the most affected by in disproportionate amounts from this pestilence? Are not the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob the most affected, the most dead from this pestilence? Yes. And this is the first temptation, and Yahweh used a pestilence. And what did he go after first? Let me show you. In the book of Exodus, the 8th chapter, we're going to show you how the Most High does these things. In Exodus, not 8, but 7, verse 14, it says, "And Yahweh said unto Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened. He refuseth to let the people go. Get you unto Pharaoh in the morning. Lo, he goeth out unto the water. And thou shalt stand by the river's brink against he come. And the rod which was turned to a serpent shall you take in your hand. And you shall say unto him, Yahweh Elohim of the Hebrews hath sent me unto you, saying, Let my people go, that they may serve me within the wilderness. And behold, hitherto thou wouldest not hear. Thus saith Yahweh, in this thou shalt know that I am Yah. Behold, I will smite you with the rod, that it is in my hand upon the waters, which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. And the fish that is in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Egyptians shall loathe to drink the water of the river." So the first plague that Yahweh hit Egypt with was a plague of blood. How does that relate to today? Yahweh said he'll bring us to Egypt again. So how does this plague, how is this similar to the first plague in Egypt? Well, look in the book of Ezekiel, the 14th chapter. And why would Yahweh go for blood first? Because the life is in the blood. The blood is the chief substance in your body. You can't live without blood. Waters can't be waters if they're filled with blood. And you can't drink water for your life if it is turned to blood. Nobody's about to just sit here and drink blood like that. This blood is the life. Yahweh is going straight for the jugular vein, as they say. And in Ezekiel, the 14th chapter, we're going to begin reading in verse 14. Though these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, they should deliver but their own souls by their righteousness, saith Yahweh Elohim. If I cause noisome beasts to pass through the land, and they spoil it, so that it be desolate, that no man pass through it, because of the beasts. Though these three men were in it, as I live, saith Yahweh Elohim, they shall deliver neither sons nor daughters, they shall only be delivered, but the land shall be desolate. Or if I bring the sword upon the land, it's the second thing, and say, sword, go through the land, and so that I cut off man and beast from it. Though these three men were in it, as I live, saith the Master Yah, they shall deliver neither sons nor daughters, but they shall only be delivered themselves. Or if I send pestilence into that land and pour out my fury, upon it in blood. That's what he pours it out, in blood. The first one, he said, is a famine. The second one is noisome beasts. And the fourth thing is a pestilence in blood, to cut off from it man and beast. A pestilence in blood. Well, this COVID-19 is a pestilence that has attacked your blood. This is why it has caused such horrid upper respiratory issues, because your lungs, as they call it, your lungs is a part of your heart. And your heart is where the issues of life come from. Your heart and your lungs, as they call it, is where your blood is enriched with the breath of life. But Yahweh has put a pestilence in the blood to take your breath. The world scrimmaging and scrammaging for ventilators. This COVID-19 causes strokes, which is blood clots. This COVID-19 causes heart attacks, which is the stoppage of the flow of your blood. He said he sent this pestilence in blood. And this one is no different. But what were the effects of this pestilence that Yahweh has put on the earth? The world, country by country, turned off the lights. Country by country, they turned off the switch. Nation by nation and continent by continent said, we got to shut it down. First in China, then in the other Asian countries, then in Iran, and then in Europe. where it became even worse. Whole nations shut down. And then to America, the United States. And once it hit the United States, all world travel ceased. The world stock market imploded. Everyone was affected because the United States is the head of Babylon. And it went down. And in this happening in this manner, you couldn't go to the restaurants that you want to go to. You couldn't go to the movie theaters that you want to go to. You couldn't go to the sporting events that you want to go to the plays and to the movies and to the ice skating rinks and to the shows and to the parks and to schools and into everything that brought you around other people. You couldn't do it anymore. The entire world stopped having recreation, and vanity was cut thoroughly. Clubs and all kind of gatherings that are social have been nixed. They're still not happening for real. And how did the world react to this? They reacted exactly how Israel reacted. And Israel wasn't exclusive of this situation. For a moment, all we saw in the news was Europeans and rich people being affected by this, these big-time cruise ships and world travelers being affected by such horrible pestilence. And so much so black folks is like, we immune. We immune. No, we wasn't immune at all. Not at all. Yahweh was just tempting the world. And he said by temptations. Well, if you look up this word temptations, it means to test, to prove, and it also means to whine and complain. Yes, it means to test, and Yahweh tested the entire world. He tested everyone. He took away your vanities. He took away from the world their religious services. You couldn't go to church. You still can. You couldn't go to the mosque. You still can. You couldn't go to Mecca and circle around that big black rock and throw more rocks at it. It was empty. You couldn't go to the Vatican and stand in St. Peter's Square and call on the Pope. You still can. You couldn't go to your gatherings from a religious to a occupational to a recreational way. It just was not happening. The world stopped having their fill of vanity. And this tested you because it made you sit down and understand what was happening. Bodies being buried in mass graves, people being carted into churches, dead bodies just being stocked in churches and in freezer trucks, and they're still doing it. Bodies just piling up while you can't go nowhere and forget about it. You can't go to the bar and drink away your sorrows. And so what did that do to everyone? It tested you. What did Yahweh say in the book of Ecclesiastes? It proved you. It proved this entire world to see who would be wise. And in the book of Ecclesiastes, the 3rd or the 7th chapter, start reading in verse 2. It reads, "It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men, and the living will lay it to his heart. Yes, when you go to a funeral, you start considering your end. Sorrow is better than laughter, for by the sadness of the countenance, the heart is made better. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. Meaning, the wise would be in the house of mourning. They'll be in this place of mourning because they gonna lay it to heart. But the fools, they're going to be partying it up all the time. And because Yahweh put the world into a perpetual state of mourning, because somebody is dying every day. Thousands of people are dying every day from one pestilence. Not a few people here from heart disease, some people here from car accidents, some people here from this, and some people here from that. You can't drive, so car accidents is down real bad. You can't go to the bars, so alcohol poisoning is down. You can't go to the restaurants, so heart attacks and strokes from eating too much is down. You can't go hang out, so deaths from fights, that's down. So the most causes of death in the world for the last 3 or 4 months has been this one pestilence. Thousands of people every day are dying. And so the earth is in a perpetual state of mourning. Somebody is burying their dead every day because of one pestilence, one reason. And that's Yahweh's word that went out to start taking your life in the blood. And this temptation has put you in this perpetual state of mourning, even though you didn't pass the test. No, we didn't want to consider and lay it to heart. We wanted parties. And after a while, after a few days, the complaining started. What did Yahweh say he would do? Temptations. What are temptations? It's a testing, a proving, and it also means to whine and complain. Look in the book of Numbers, the 11th chapter. In Numbers, the 11th chapter, the first verse, it reads, "And when the people complained, it displeased Yahweh, and Yahweh heard it." See, Yahweh said, "You have tempted me these 10 times," meaning we, the children of Israel, whined and complained to Yahweh, even though he was blessing us, delivered us, freed us from an evil oppressor, but we whined and complained. He said, "And when the people complained, it displeased Yahweh, and Yahweh heard it. And his anger was kindled, and the fire of Yahweh burned among them and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. And the people cried unto Moses. And when Moses prayed unto Yahweh, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because of the fire of Yahweh burnt among them." In verse 4, "And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a lusting. And the children of Israel also wept again and said, Who will give us flesh to eat?" More complaining, more whining, tempting Yahweh. Well, this time, Yahweh is tempting you. And not only are you being tested to see if you're going to consider the Creator. Are you going to consider that this pestilence has shut down China, Russia, United States, United Kingdom, Spain, France, Italy, Germany, all these countries that tout in their greatness, they shut it down. Somebody coughed, sneezed, and sniffled, and they closed down the international airports. Somebody coughed, sneezed, and sniffled. They closed down the great NBA, the NFL, the Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer. They called home their troops. Because why? Because of coughing, sneezing, and sniffling. Because of a sickness. I thought these were the greatest countries in the world. But they didn't have an answer, and still don't have an answer for this pestilence. They just telling you to wear masks and to stay at home and to use soap and hand sanitizer. They don't know what else to tell you because they don't know what else to do. They're trying to find vaccines and find and harvest people's blood, but it's not going to work. And the Creator tempted this world. And now the people started to whine and complain. We want to open back up. The whole president that told people to stay home, he himself whined and complained. He himself said he's tired after 14 days of his own decree, said he's tired of watching old baseball games. He himself said he can't believe how the country is not even operable anymore. We was doing so well. He whined and complained every day while declaring war on Yahweh and his people. Because once the statistics of who was being affected the most and who was dying the most, they said we need to open up. And they went into their state houses with guns and rifles, spitting on people, saying, open this country back up. Did the police, did they start shooting rubber bullets at them? Did they start shooting tear gas at them? Did they start calling the National Guard and the military on them? No, they did not. They let them do it. And the very president that just before we came on air declared, essentially, said that he putting military in these streets of the United States if the states don't take care of the problem. He said, oh, those protesters, that they just want the country back open. I understand them. But did he say that today? No. He said, if y'all don't get these fools off these streets, I'ma send in the military. And so the temptations came full center in Israel. Go to the book of Jeremiah, the 16th chapter. In Jeremiah 16, begin reading at verse 10. And it shall come to pass, when you shall show this people all these words, and they shall say unto thee, wherefore hath Yahweh pronounced all this great evil against us? Or what is our iniquity? Or what is our sin that we have committed against Yahweh our Elohim? Yeah, our people want to know, why is all this stuff happening to us? Why are we the ones dying at the highest rates from COVID-19? Why are we the ones losing our jobs at the highest rates from the failed economy? Why are we the ones being hunted in the streets like dogs? Why is it us? Because of our sins? Verse 11, then shall you say unto them, because your fathers have forsaken me, saith Yahweh, and have walked after other Elohim, and have served them, and have worshipped them, and have forsaken me, and have not kept my law, and you have done worse than your fathers. For behold, you walk everyone after the imagination of his evil heart, that they may not hearken unto me. That's why, because we didn't listen when the servants of Yahweh said, look, this pestilence is real. We need to protect ourselves and follow some laws of cleanliness and uncleanliness. But you have people saying, man, bump COVID-19. Forget wearing masks. Why we got to wear masks? Ain't you, but you afraid? Oh, yeah, I'm afraid of Yahweh for sure. And if Yahweh done put forth a pestilence and we got to wear a mask to separate ourselves from unknown people who got unknown diseases, I'm wearing a mask. Wearing gloves, a mask, whatever I got to do. I'm just going to walk out here, everybody coughing and sneezing and touching stuff, and I'm just going to walk out here, no mask, no protection. No, that's not smart. Especially when Yahweh said you need to separate yourself from the clean, from the unclean, so you can remain clean. But we walked after the imagination of our own heart. We didn't pay attention. We decided to do whatever we want to do. We don't listen to Yah's words. Yah's servant's been telling you to gather yourselves together, O nation not desired, yea, gather yourselves together before the decree go forth, before the day passes a chaff, before the fierce anger of Yahweh come upon you. Seek Yahweh, seek meekness, seek righteousness, so you may be hid in the day of Yah's anger. But this decree has gone out, and Yah's anger is here. And people still don't want to gather themselves together. Yahweh said, if you wise, you will lay it to heart. But we as a people have not laid this to heart. And because it hasn't been laid to heart, we are suffering. Verse 13 says, therefore will I cast you out of this land, as he has, into a land that ye know not, as we are, neither you nor your fathers, and there shall you serve other Elohim day and night, where I will show you no favor. So now you ask, why is it that the black folks that get COVID-19 go into the hospitals and they are killing them? Yeah, that's the reports from the nurses and some of the doctors. They went into these hospitals and people were just slaughtering people in the hospital. Of course you're not going to hear about it. But they was like, man, just put them on the ventilator, let them die, take them off the ventilator, let them die. They was giving people, trying to resuscitate them with the electric shocks, and they didn't even need it. Nurses saying, that will kill them if you do that. They didn't pay attention. They went and did it anyway. Just killing your people. Letting your people just die in the hallways, drop dead. No favor. And the world had no favor for you either. The world said, oh, y'all dying way more than we dying. We opening everything back up. You had black people loving to hear the governor of New York come on TV and speak up for what they need and how it needs to be done. Black people was applauding this man, but he opening up just like everybody else as soon as they see that it's your people dying, claiming to care about you and they don't. So Yahweh wanted to see who's going to lay it to heart, who's going to consider. Yahweh said this in the book of Genesis, the 12th chapter. In verse 2 says, and I will make of thee a great nation, talking to Abram. And I will bless thee, and thy name shall be great. And thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless you, and curse them that curse you. And in you shall all families of the earth be blessed. Yahweh gave the whole world an opportunity to be blessed. He said, I'm going to send this pestilence, but you got an opportunity to be blessed. You can bless the children of Israel. And you can help them. But what did the nations do? They said, bump them, let them die. And that's what they did. Yet, the temptation on the world has shown you who you're really dealing with. You're dealing with people that don't care about you, the children of Israel. And you're also dealing with yourself, the children of Israel, that you don't care enough about your own self to hear the words of Yahweh. And Yahweh, he's not going to stop at these temptations. He's not going to end at just this. Do you see how the Creator has altered the entire course of history by simply causing a pestilence? He has changed the world economy. He has changed healthcare. He has changed travel. He has changed gatherings. He has changed the social thought in the world. And it is all due to the hand of Yah bringing forth temptations, testing you to see what you would consider, to see if you would consider Yahweh, to see if you would call on him and think upon him. Look what it says in Jeremiah, the 30th chapter. Verse 13, there is none to plead your cause, that you may be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicines. Nobody's pleading your cause when you get this COVID. They're just like, oh, there's black folk dying. Let them die. All thy lovers have forgotten you. Them people you voted for, them people you supported, them people you died for, they all forgot you when it was time for, they didn't think about you. They didn't consider you. They wanted to make sure they selves was secure. They got all the medicines. They got all the money. They got all the toilet paper and paper towels. They got everything they need while they will leave you out there stranded, sick. Look what they did in Katrina, hurricane. Look how they left our people. Look how they treated our people. When all your lovers have forgotten you, they seek you not. For I have wounded you. Who? Yahweh. He's done this. With the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one. For the multitude, and why? Of your iniquity. Because you go to church every Sunday. Because you go to the mosque every Friday. Because you keep on eating pork. Because you keep on slandering your brother. Because you keep on hating yourself. Because you keep on blaspheming Yahweh. Because you keep on playing the part of a prostitute and a dog. And you keep walking after the imaginations of your own heart. Yahweh has done these things because of your iniquity. Because of your sins were increased. Why are you crying? For your affliction, for your sorrow is incurable, for the multitude of your iniquities, because thy sins were increased. I have done these things unto you. Did you consider when everybody was losing somebody every day from this pestilence? Have you considered that this is from Yah? Have you considered that we might need to call a fast, to call on Yah to help us, to deliver us, to spare us? When we called the fast for 40 days and 40 nights, did you say, yes, let's do it? Or did you say, nope, not me, I can't eat, I can't go away from eating that long? Well, now look, 104 or more thousand people will never eat again. People are sick and will die, and you couldn't put down the fork for one day, let alone 40. Because Yahweh said he has a controversy and that he is coming to handle his business upon the world and Israel. And he is in action. And all we did was complain and whine and seek after vanity. The government handed you $1,200 and you handed it right back to them for vanity. The Most High said that he would deliver a nation from the midst of another nation through temptations. And he has put forth these tests. He also said that he would deliver a nation from the midst of another nation through temptations and signs. And now Yahweh has moved to the next phase to bring you more signs, so you will know it is Yahweh. And who is going to even tell you this? You know who can't tell you? Somebody that don't witness to Yahweh. Yahweh didn't send Pharaoh to the elders in Israel while they were in Egypt to tell them Yahweh is going to deliver you. No, Yahweh sent his servant to bring you his word, to show you his signs. Look what it says in the book of Exodus. And you can mark my words, because I know some people, they love marking what we say, and they've been slandering us for years. Oh, you said this and you said that. Yeah. What you got to say today? The world is in utter upheaval. And who told you it would be in utter upheaval? In the book of Exodus, the 4th chapter, start reading at verse 1. And Moses answered and said, but behold, They will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice. For they will say, Yahweh hath not appeared unto thee. And that's what they're saying. Yahweh hasn't told you anything. Yahweh hasn't said anything. Yahweh hasn't revealed anything. That's what they're saying. Yahweh hasn't revealed anything. But yes, Yahweh has. And he will continue to. And he will magnify it. And nobody will be able to deny that this is the hand of Yah. He said they won't believe it. They'll say Yahweh hasn't appeared unto you. And Yahweh said unto him, what is in your hand? And he said, a staff, a rod. And he said, cast it on the ground. And he said, and he cast it on the ground. And it became a serpent. And Moses fled from before it. And Yahweh said unto Moses, put forth thy hand and take it by the tail. And he put forth his hand and he caught it, and it became a rod in his hand. And they may believe that Yahweh Elohim of their fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, the Elohim of Jacob, hath appeared unto thee. And Yahweh said, furthermore unto him, put now thine hand into thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom. And when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. And he said, put thy hand in thy bosom again. And he put forth his hand into his bosom again, and plucked it out in his bosom. And behold, it was turned again unto his other flesh. Meaning he put his hand in, and it turned it white. Put it back in, and it turned it black. And he said, put thine, in verse 8, and it shall come to pass, if they will not believe you, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe also these two signs, neither hearken unto the voice, that thou shalt take of the water of the river, and pour it upon the dry land, and the water which thou takest out of the river shall become blood on the dry land. And why? Because it was the third sign. On the land he put blood. 3 different signs showed him to show the people. And before them 3, he said, what shall I call you? What they going to ask me? Who sent me to you? Who sent me to you all? And he said, let them know. I'm Yahweh, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, the Elohim of Yaakov, have sent me unto you. But these 3 latter signs, you should show them. Because Yahweh wants you to know he did it. So today, Yahweh, see, he's coming with these temptations because he's really prepping the world. He's preparing them. He's getting them prepared and getting them ready. He already put them in a position. Said, y'all gotta get ready for me. I gotta wear you down. I gotta make it undeniable for you. So he got these temptations. And the world knows that this is the hand of Yah. They don't want to acknowledge it. They want to call it the invisible enemy. They want to call it everything but Yahweh. So what did Yahweh do now? Now he's dealing with signs. And what is the sign that he sent forth this time? Well, didn't you know our brother who was slain in the street by a racist white police officer, by 3 racist white police officers? 3 people physically took this man's life, while the fourth stood on to watch and protect them. 3 of them killed him. He was the third nationally publicized slaying in 3 months. 3 people killed him. The third national publicized slaying by racist police or racist white people in 3 months. He was slain in the second month, the last day of the month of YAH'S year, and the world would know of this thing on the day of the 3rd month, on the 3rd day of the week. That's when the world would find out about this slaying. That's when the world was in its first day of unrest. It was videotaped by a 17-year-old, which is in the order of 3, for 10 minutes, which is in the order of 3, on 38th Street, which is in the order of 3. And because of this thing, on the 3rd night of protest, the 3rd precinct was burnt. And this happened in Minneapolis, the 3rd largest metropolitan area of the Midwest. And that's just 10 different situations in which the 3rd is put on our brother, George Floyd. 10 different occurrences that bring forth the order of 3. And what is 3? What is 4? Why does that even matter? If you go to the book of Genesis, the 1st chapter, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 14 reads, "And Elohim said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of heaven, to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And Elohim made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also." So he made these lights, and these lights were for signs. And how else are we going to know the signs if we don't know what these lights are for? How are you going to even, you can't even understand it. So Moses, as it is attributed to him in a prayer in Psalms 90, put forth a prayer for your people. And in Psalms 90, verse 12, it reads, "So teach us to number," means mark, "our days. Teach us to order our days." That's what this means. This word number, it means to order, to mark, to arrange our days. We got to know how to organize these things because they are signs that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. So you may be able to apply your hearts unto vision, unto light, unto this wisdom. You got to know how to see this thing. And the way you see this thing is by understanding the order of your days. And the 3rd sign that Moses was shown after Yahweh told him his name was the blood being poured upon the earth. Because the 3rd day, Yahweh made the earth. And this means that on the 3rd, Yahweh is going to do something in the earth. It's going to affect the earth, and the whole earth will be affected. Why else is the whole world today looking at us? And who are we? We are the servant of Yahweh, because that's also what the third represents. Yahweh's servant on earth. And so Yahweh has the whole earth looking at the plight of his servant, calling out for some mercy on the plight of his servant. Every state in this country, in various countries throughout the world, they are looking at Yahweh's servant, because one man was murdered. And he wasn't murdered because of his alcohol that he drank supposedly that day. He wasn't murdered because of his white woman girlfriend, as people just, I don't understand that. He wasn't murdered for any other reason than for this. The reason this man's life was taken is in Isaiah, the 43rd chapter. Verse 3 reads, "For I am Yahweh your Elohim, the Holy One of Israel, thy Savior. I give Egypt for thy ransom, Ethiopia and Seba for thee. Since thou wast precious in my sight, thou hast been honorable, and I have loved thee. Therefore will I give men for thy life." Why else did he take down Kobe Bryant, number 24, the order of 3? So you could consider. Why else did that one event make the whole world mourn? So you could consider. Why else did Yahweh take out Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and now George Floyd? 3 people publicized throughout the country. So you can consider. Why is the world in unrest today? So you can consider that Yahweh is doing this. This is just one sign. One sign that Yahweh is done so far. And he's doing it in the earth in this 3rd month. Because the Almighty will deliver his nation from the midst of another nation through temptations, signs, wonders, war, a mighty hand, stretched out arm, and great terror. Just some things to consider. The Creator said this in the book of Deuteronomy. And then we're going to adjourn. In Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter, verse 26. "I said, I would scatter thee into countries, into the corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. Were it not that I had feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries would have behaved themselves strangely, and lest they should say, our hand is high, and Yahweh hath not done all this. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would understand or consider their latter end. How should one chase 1,000 and 2 put 10,000 to flight, except their rock had sold them, and Yahweh had shut them up. See, the Most High is letting you know that he put us in this situation, and the only reason he's not going to allow it to go so far, because then the world would think they did this. He got to bring it home and let you know that he did this. But if you was wise and considered your latter end, you would be thinking upon the word of Yah. In verse 32. For their vine is the vine of Sodom, and the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of dragons and the cruel venom of asps. Is not this laid up in store with me and sealed up among my treasures? To me belongeth vengeance and recompense. Yahweh's going to get the vengeance on this world for what they are doing to his servant and to his name. Vengeance belongeth and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come upon them make haste. For Yahweh shall judge his people and repent himself of his servants, when he seeth that their power is gone. And yes, the power is gone, and there is none shut up or left. The power is gone, brothers and sisters. As I said right before we came on air, the leader and the king of Babylon declared that if you don't clean up your states with the National Guard, he's going to send the military. And yes, he's going to send the military. And yes, martial law will officially be enacted. And yes, people will be killed. And yes, it will be disproportionately your people. Because the power is gone. And there's none shut up or left. And he shall say, where is JC? Where is ALLAH? Where is the tree gods, your Orishas? Where are your gods? Their rock in whom they trusted, which did eat the fat of your sacrifices and drank the wine of your drink offerings. Let them rise up. But he canceled Easter this year. There ain't no rising. Let them rise up and help you and be your protection. See, now that I, even I, am he, Yahweh, and there is no Elohim with me. Yahweh kills and Yahweh makes alive. Yahweh wounds and Yahweh heals. Neither is there any that can deliver out of the hand of Yahweh. And Yahweh is going to deliver us. And he has begun. And he is in his work. And we are reporting to you the deliverance of your king. So until tomorrow, Yahweh loves you very much, and so do I. Shalom.
Yeah, praise Yah. Kokma and Ben A and Da'ath and night. Counsel to fear Yah and adore his light. These are the spirits we need in our life. To walk uprightly, be pleasing his sight. understanding that Yahweh's the only one. You was lied to about the begotten Son. We destroyed like your knowledge, but all I ask for, what's that? Is the spirit of Yah, so all I breathe is the spirit of Yah, so all they see is the spirit of hate, so all my pleas is to enter Yah's gates, and as they grieve, see his word take shape, so plain to see that Yahweh is great. All I need, Yah's all I need. Your Ruach Kodesh, my Yah, I must confess, my Yah is all I need. Yahweh is all I need. Your Ruach Kodesh, my Yah, I must confess, my Yah is all I need. Trust in my Yahweh with all of your heart. Keep his commandments, from evil depart. Give Yah his praise when sunrise the day starts. Keep all his paths, Yah will light up the dark. All I yearn for is the spirit of Yah. All I long for is the spirit of Yah. Too long we been disappeared from my Yah. Not sincere with my Yah, unaware of my Yah. Quite unfair to my Yah. Do we care for our Yah, the fountain of living waters? Why you think he drying all the oceans? Why you keep choosing presidents and keep voting? Worshiping in the man and who you hoping? He got his hand around your neck, he cashing in. You keep choking like blind at noonday. We keep groping. I beg for the day Yah's judgment's overflowing. Yah got me high on this oxytocin. Yah's all I need. Your Ruach Kodesh, my Yah, I must confess, my Yah is all I need. Yahweh is all I need. Your Ruach Kodesh, my Yah, I must confess, my Yah is all I need. Kokma and Ben A and Da'at and might. Counsel to fear Yah and adore his light. These are the spirits we need in our life. To walk uprightly, be pleased in his sight. Trust in my Yahweh with all of your heart. Keep his commandments, from evil depart. Give Yah his praise when sunrise the day starts. Keep all his plans, Yahweh light up the dark. Blessed is the man that walks not with Rasha, nor goes in the way of the sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scorners. Return none to Yah, I'm trying to warn ya. All I need, Yah's all I need. Ruach Kodesh, my Yah, I must confess, my Yah is all I need. All I need, Yah's all I need. Your Ruach Kodesh, my Yah, I must confess, my Yah is all I need. Yahweh